कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचार्य जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव जय राधा राष्ट्री हरि राधा राष्ट्री हरि राधे जय गौरांगी बेंगलोरेश्वर गौरांगी बेंगलोरेश्वर राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा सुभद्रा माई जय सुदर्शन जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत इस डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatt Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Shat Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. प्रेम से गौर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन गिरिराज महाराज की जय हो। मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय, श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, कावेरी माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudile Nastapayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulingayatem Grim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurudentarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hi Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Canto 3 is titled The Status Quo, Chapter 24 titled The Renunciation of Kartamba Muni, and the text number that we're going to be reading today is 36. Etanma janme lokesmin mumukshanam durusayat Pransakyanam Tatvanam Sammantam Darshanam Etan me janma lokesmin mumukshamam turosyat Pransakyanaya Tatvanam Sammatan Atma Darshanam Etan me janme lokesmin mumukshamam Durosyat Transakyaya Tatvanam Samyatma Darshanam. Word to word translation. Etat, this, me, my, Janma, birth, Loke, in the world, Asmin, in this, Mumukshumam, by those great sages seeking liberation, Durasayat, from unnecessary material desires, Ransakyanyam, for explaining, Tatvanam, of the truth, Samyatya, which is highly esteemed, Atmadarshane, in self-realization. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada, Jai Shri Prabhupada. My appearance in this world is especially to explain this philosophy of Sankhya, which is highly esteemed for self-realization by those desiring freedom from the entanglement of unnecessary material desires. Purport: here the word Durasayat is very significant. Dur refers to trouble or dukha, miseries. Asyat means from the shelter. We conditioned souls have taken shelter of the material body, which is full of troubles. Let me project this. I'm sorry, I should have done that a little earlier. Okay. We'll start from the purport again. Here the word Durasayat is very significant. Dura refers to trouble or dukha, miseries. Asyat means from the shelter. We conditioned souls have taken shelter of material body, which is full of troubles and miseries. Foolish people cannot understand the situation, and this is called ignore. The body is the source of all miseries, miserable life. Modern civilization is supposed to be making advancement in specific knowledge, but what is this scientific knowledge? It is based on bodily comforts only, without knowledge that however comfortable one maintains his body, the body is destructible. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Antanva imidehe, these bodies are destined to be destroyed. Nitya Shokto Sharirana refers to the living soul or the living spark within the body. That soul is eternal, but the body is not eternal. For our activity, we must have a body. Without a body, without sense organs, there is no activity. But people are not inquiring whether it is possible to have an eternal body. Actually, they aspire for an eternal body because even though they engage in the sense enjoyment, that sense enjoyment is not eternal. They are therefore in want of something which they can enjoy eternally, but they do not understand how to attain this perfection. Sankhya philosophy, therefore, is stated therein by Kapila Dev, is Tattvanam. The Sankhya philosophy system is designed to afford understanding of the real truth. What is the real truth? The real truth is knowledge of how to get out of the material body, which is the source of all trouble. Lord Kapila's incarnation or descent is specially meant for this purpose. This is clearly stated here. Om Tat Sat. Omagyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shagalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So wonderful verse this morning to be read as to what is Sankhya philosophy for us. Let's understand the translation again. My appearance in this world is specially to explain the philosophy of Sankhya. And this is being spoken by Kapila Dev. Kapila, in the previous verse, is also addressed as Bhagavan Uvacha. So we're reading in the continuation of this. It says, my appearance in this material world, is especially to explain the philosophy of Sankhya, which is highly esteemed for self-realization by those desiring freedom from entanglement of unnecessary material desires. So, till Shloka 33, we see that Kardam Muni is glorifying. Very nicely portrayed and said by Sri Prabhupada, very, very clearly understandable. Still, Shloka number 23, Kardam Muni is glorifying Kapila. And then he gives, initially he says it is glorification of the Lord. So the most important part of it is traditionally, when we see a senior devotee or a deity or any of the Vaishnavas, we have to glorify them and then present them the question. So you can't just go and ask somebody questions straightforward when you are seeing a senior devotee. So we have to actually glorify them, and then once we glorify them, then we should present them a question or present our request or announce. So here also we see Kardam Muni started glorifying the Lord, and then he surrenders, and not only surrenders, Kardamuni is always a surrender soul. He actually says that I would like to renounce. And shloka number 34, two shlokas before this, starts with Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. It doesn't say Shri Kapila Dev Uvacha, no. It says Bhagavan Uvacha. That is the respect that, Kardamuni has. Though Kapila Dev is the son of Kardamuni, but he doesn't take it for granted, saying that just because he is my son, I can just say Kapila Uvacha. No, it says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Lord says the main purpose of Kardamuni to take sannyas was to, actually forget his anxiety. Kardamuni by himself, was a great devotee of the Lord. Well, he thought he could have continued in the house, but then he had 9 daughters, and all the 9 daughters were already married. Then he also had Kapil Dev as his son. The problem is the previous shlokas very clearly say that we should retire from our family once we are nearing 50. What do we do after that? Once we say 50-50, so the general public at large will say 50 years is only halfway through. We don't know when we're going to leave the body, but still, just for the sake of conversation, let's take 50 is halfway through. But then they will ask this question as to what we do after 50 years. What does it mean? Should we abandon our family? Should we just leave them alone, go to the forest and practice some hatha yoga or something like that? And also, sannyas is not recommended in the age of Kali. So what is it saying that one should retire? Retire means sannyasa? No. It is actually what is to be done. The scriptures also recommend or suggest that what one should do after 50 years of age. And what is the danger if we do not do so? So let's understand this. As the body grows old, the desire of the jiva, who's the resident of this body, and we all know that the jiva resides in the heart and the mind. The body is the vehicle only for fulfillment. The desire actually starts growing once a person becomes 50 years of age. It is not doubling, it is quadruple. But the vehicle which is fulfilling this desire of the jiva, that is this body which is carrying, it slowly starts becoming useless. The body will not support the desires. For example, though you would like to eat very nice spicy food, salty food, but then your body does not support, you will start having hypertension or BP. You want to eat rasagulla, but then you may have diabetes. You would definitely want to have a lot of cheese, but then a lot of cheese will give you cholesterol. Yes, at the same time, you would like to exercise, but then when you want to exercise, your knees don't support you. Knees start paining. So the problem here is after 50 years of age, the jiva will want to enjoy, but the body will not support. And when the body is not able to support, he starts feeling miserable. And that is the biggest problem. And then he gets entangled into Maya. Now, what is why after 50? So, in Hindi, it is said, Ikavan, Bavan. One means forest. So, at the age of 51, one should actually go towards the forest. And what does it mean by accepting sannyasa, or what does it mean by going towards the forest? Is to accept the whole world as one's family. So far, so good. You are working only for your son, your daughter, your wife, probably for your grandson, granddaughter. But now you should look at Jan Kalyan. The whole family, the whole world is to be seen as a family. Sannyasa means Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Actually, if you see all of our gurus, they do more seva to the world than the disciples do to their Guru Maharaj. Yeah. If you see, for example, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, he's done so much for the whole world. Have any one of us done anything to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj? No. His Holiness Srila Jagtak Swami Guru Maharaj, he's done so much despite ill health and despite difficulties in the present form of his health. he has done so much for the world, but then his disciples, we have not done enough. So sannyasis actually give much more to the world than what actually they get in return. They give a lot. Srila Prabhupada at an advanced age of 70 years, he did so much. There was a very nice story of Yamuna Mataji narrating this, saying that she's written how she came to Krishna consciousness. In the earlier days before joining Srila Prabhupada or Krishna consciousness, she was up to everything. She could talk about smoking. She was with the hippies and all of that. But at the same time, she narrates how her sister was married and Srila Prabhupada, how actively he took part. All the youngsters were all in the age of about in their 20s and 30s. Not even 30s, they were all in their 20s. But Srila Prabhupada gave them so much of love, so much he did. He cooked for them, he did everything for them. But then please understand that Srila Prabhupada never got attached to his disciples also. He never got attached to anybody. So one needs to practice attachment with detachment, is what it is said after 50 years. Sannyas. What is sannyas? To give away something that we have. Sannyas. Give up everything that we have. Yeah. So active preaching is to be done and not just sitting at home doing bhajanas, which is the wrong thing. We are a part of the movement where it is only a preaching movement. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, everybody wanted us to preach. Right from, if you take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the lineage, then he also wanted us to go out and preach the holy Damodar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Tare dekho, tare ko, Krishna Upadesh. Give everybody, whomever you see across, please give them Krishna Upadesh. So Kardam Muni actually wants to detach despite having Lord as his son. One gets attached to his family life just because of certain things. Initially, it is because of wife, and then over a period of time, he gets attached to children and then to grandchildren, and still doesn't want to give up. He is very happy cleaning the potty of his grandchild and still feels that, he is mine. But then that relationship is only with the body. There's absolutely no relationship with the soul that we have. The eternal what we have is not what is connected here with the body. In the Gaudiya Sampradaya earlier, there was nothing called sannyasa. It was only Babaji. But then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought this sannyas back. And the basis for sannyasa is the foundation of the holy name of the Lord. Kardam Muni was always in Manmana Bhava Bhakto Madhyajimam Namaskaru. He's always chanting why I need. So many times, we have this, when you talk to people, tell them that, why don't you take up to the chanting of the holy name? They say, oh, हम तो हर समय भगवान का नाम लेता है. हमारे मन में हम नाम लेता है, 24 घंटा नाम लेता है. Then when you tell them that please chant one round on the beads, they say, why do I need the beads? I'm always Krishna conscious. I'm always Krishna's devotee. And I'm Krishna's devotee eternally. And when you ask them, how many rounds do you do? They tell you, 4-5 rounds, 4-5 rounds. That means he's not doing anything. Whenever he likes chanting, he will chant. Otherwise, he will not chant. So chanting is something that one needs to really do very regularly, and that is why it is recommended that we chant on the beads. And when we relate ourselves to saying my wife, my son, my grandson, we are only relating it to the body. We are not relating it to the Atma. The relationship with the body is, when the body dies, the wife cries over the body of the husband and then tells that take him for burning. So the detachment is complete there. So there's no attachment that is happening with the Atma. It is only the attachment with the body. So detachment should be practiced from the younger age if possible. And we have to start doing something that we want to do it at a later date, at a very young age, because doing something at a very advanced age is going to be very difficult. We have to look at our senior devotees who are, there's a very nice example that there are devotees. I was hearing this one lecture by a devotee who's in Melbourne, in Australia. And he said, we have had so many examples of devotees who are actually leading the path. There's one of that devotee who would actually earn $1,500 per day. That's the kind of, daily wage that he would get, a software engineer. And he said he gave up everything and he decided to preach the holy name of Allah, and he's preaching full time. But then it is not very easy when you reach 50 and on the first day of 51st year, you say, okay, I'm going to renounce everything and go and preach. It needs to start at a much earlier age. When you start doing it at a much earlier age, it is very easy for us to take it up. So now coming on to this, particular discussion on Sankhya Yoga or Sankhya philosophy that we call it as. What is Sankhya? Sankhya is number. And Sankhya is knowledge about numbers. We say Shodashanam. Yeah. Now there are 16 names which are actually binding the jiva. The body itself is a painful shelter. Yet we desire to make more and more out of it and be more comfortable. It is very painful and lonely state when we grow old. At a younger age, you may feel you have a lot of energy, you have a lot of things to do, you have a lot of friends. But as we move forward from there, at a little advanced stage, it is very painful and it gets lonelier and lonelier. Either the husband would have left or the wife would have left the material world. The children would go to their own jobs, they would have their own families and they would not be worried about you. The relatives, near dear ones have also gone. Only few of them are around, but they are also not able to meet you because of their own inabilities. And all that really happens. Now, here Sankhya philosophy actually teaches us. So I will just go back to the purport and also translation. He says Sankhya, which is highly esteemed for self-realization by those. It is only for those who are desiring freedom from the entanglement of unnecessary material desires. Yeah, it is not for everybody. Not everybody can practice this Sankhya yoga or Sankhya philosophy. And the Sankhya philosophy system is designed to afford understanding of the real truth. And what, by the way, is the real truth? The real truth is the knowledge of how to get out of this material body. That's the real truth. That's the real truth. When you get this knowledge of how to get out of this material, that's the real truth, which is the source of all the trouble. When we have this body is of all the trouble. And Lord Kapila actually descended just to teach us that. So what is this, number, Shodashanam? There are actually 16 gates in our body. And how to get out of this prison house, which is of 16 gates, is what somebody needs to practice. As we know, if there is a prisoner, he would like to know how this prison house is and how does it function and how does he find a way out to get out when he wants to run away from the prison house. So here also, the prime responsibility of a human being is to get out of this prison house which has 16 gates. And it's actually Lord Kapila gave this knowledge to us, said that we should get out. People are trying, it's on the other way, people are trying to enjoy all the 16 gates that we have. They want to have very nice food to, satisfy their tongue, mouth. They see, very nice things. That is what so-called nice things to enjoy with their senses of the eyes, to hear music, which is again material music, that is for hearing. So there are the 16 gates. Instead of trying to find a way out of this, to get out of this material world, they're trying to get entangled more. Let me give you an example how this material world works. I'm sure some of us have tried this, or you've heard of these chips which are being sold, those thin ones, thin crust ones. So I was hearing somebody talking to me about it, saying, how do they really, make this more attractive? There are actually bioscientists who work on this so that they know when you take the chips and put it in your mouth, which portion of your mouth actually gets attracted and starts liking it. So they actually make that a little tangy or, very tasty, so that you go on eating one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. So that is how this material world is about. It gives you a little flickering happiness and keeps you bound by it. It doesn't allow you to go out of it. It keeps, giving you that little flicker of happiness and then holds you back and gives you so much of miseries. It's full of miseries. This is to keep the jiva entrapped, in the 16 gates that we have. But an intelligent prisoner, a devotee is an intelligent prisoner. And he always keeps thinking as to how do I get out of this prison house of 16 gates. The more comfort we give it to our body, the more we want to continue in this body. The more sense enjoyment, the more it keeps us bound to this material world. So here, Kapila has come to retrieve the Sankhya philosophy. It has, I would say, revived the whole Sankhya philosophy. It's not that this is just brought in by Kapila Muni. It has always been there. Yeah, like the Hare Krishna Mahamantra has been there for ages. It's not that it was given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually revived it. So likewise, Kapila Dev revived the Sankhya philosophy. And as we see, we are looking for pleasure. We are searching for pleasure, but there's actually no pleasure in the material world. It's like a desert sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time there's a mirage in the desert. When you walk into the desert, you feel at a certain distance there is water. And as you start running towards that place, once you go there, it is all gone. So that is the illusion. That's the mirage. There's no water at all. It was just an illusion. But the man keeps following it like that, keeps running behind it. But there's absolutely no water available anywhere in the desert. Likewise, the material world, we think there is happiness. Just there. When we make advancement, we say we are making advancement by earning more, learning more, saving more, working more. But at the end of the day, or at the end of the life, there's absolutely no happiness. Human body is actually a source of miseries. Mirage is still having you run behind. Maya is actually making you run behind her. And that's the mirage. That's the illusion that we say. It is like a carrot, I'm sure you must have seen this cartoon. There's a carrot hanging in front of a donkey. And the donkey feels that every step that I take, I'm going closer to the carrot and I'll be able to eat. But then the carrot is tied in such a fixed way that the donkey keeps running, walking. But the carrot, he's not able to get it. So it's like that. The more one goes forward thinking that he's going to get the carrot, no, the carrot is not going to come. The donkey is not going to get the carrot. We've all heard this, our grandparents, great-grandparents saying that, son, you're going to the college days are the best. But when you go to the college, then you realize that you have to study so much. You really have to put those efforts, you have to burn some midnight oil. But then you say, no, once you finish your degree, you can get into post-graduation, and post-graduation is the best part of your life. And then you are in the pressure of finishing the post-graduation, and while you're doing your post-graduation, you want to actually land into a job. So that whatever you've invested, whatever fees that you've invested, you can start earning from it. And then you feel that, once you land into the job, that's the satisfaction. No. Then it continues. They say the pressure comes on saying that now you should get married. You should either get a husband or a wife. You feel that once I get a husband or a wife, I'll be happy. No, that doesn't happen. Then you think, no, if I beget some children, then I'll be happy. But there's no happiness at all. Every time there is a carrot which is shown, there is a mirage which is then Maya is tricking us, saying that as you go forward, yes, go a little forward, maybe a little higher in your position. But as you go up, there is satisfaction or there is happiness. But then there's absolutely no happiness at all. You're only struggling. Every time you see you're struggling more and more and more. And you feel that there's going to be happiness. No, you don't get happiness at all. The only one thing that can give you happiness is very simple. Jivera Swarupai, Krishnera Nityadas. Only once you become eternal servant, Nitya. Once you become eternal servant of Krishna, then you can get happiness. Human life is meant only for Brahma Jigyasa. What is Brahma Jigyasa? Brahma Jigyasa means we need to know what we are. We need to have that self-realization. And on some of the sense enjoyment to keep the body and the soul together, you should not go beyond that. Eating, we say these are 4 things. Eating, mating, sleeping and defending is done even by animals. But if we do it in a moderation, we have to keep this body going, so we have to eat. We have to have a healthy body, so we have to sleep. Yeah. And mating again, if we are doing it for the sake of procreation and seeing that those children who are born are becoming Krishna conscious, then mating is allowed. Again, in moderation. So it is very important that, if one is not able to keep their senses alive, then get married, raise children in Krishna consciousness. But there's no illicit sex which is allowed. The idea out here is to minimize the sense enjoyment. And the sense enjoyment can be used only for procreation. And when procreation is done, then there is no end to it. Sense enjoyment is the great wall. It's a gate wall, or you can call it as the gate well. When there's a water connection, there's a gate wall which you open. So sense enjoyment, if you do, the gate wall will open and you'll go to hell. So that's the whole thing. Sleeping, prasadam, etc. is needed, but it is all needed in minimum. Whatever is necessary, just basically to keep the body and the soul together. We are all supposed to make the whole world Krishna conscious. And we need energy to do so. So when we eat prasadam, that's the energy that comes, and we have to make the whole world Krishna conscious. It is also our duty, it is also our responsibility to serve the deities, keep the temple clean, attract people to the temple. So doing all this nicely will help us using our body in service of the Lord. Material enjoyment is actually making us much more miserable than we think of. If you go back about 100 years without the technology, people were much more happier. Our grandparents, great-grandparents, if some of us have got that opportunity to, stay with them, you can understand that they were much more peaceful. They were much more relaxed. They didn't have so much of stress. They didn't have this so-called modern diseases that all of us see of blood pressure, diabetes, and all of that. As the technology is advanced, I think human beings have started becoming much more animalized than humanized. Earlier, if there was somebody who was not well, people would go and inquire about their well-being. They would personally meet them. But now they would just send out a message. There's no personalized touch at all. Likewise, we see there are 4 people in the house. All the 4 are sitting in different rooms and using the mobile to communicate. There's absolutely no conversation which is happening within the family. They're so near, yet so far. They're nowhere in contact with each other. They may have thousands of friends on Facebook or thousands of followers on Twitter, but then there's nobody when it comes to helping them personally. Atmosphere is getting polluted, air is getting polluted, water is getting polluted, minds are getting polluted. And we see in the earlier years, abortion was also illegal, and now it has become legalized. Consciousness basically is to clean everything. And we have to become free from all the contaminations that we are surrounded with. We have to take advantage of the advancement of our Vedas. The modern day science says everything comes from nothing. I don't know who is this logician who says everything comes from nothing. Can you get something for me? Can you get a rasgulla from nothing? Not practical. So the science that we are learning is also incomplete, or it has no basis. So we need to do a lot of work to bring people to their senses. We need to make efforts to do so. We are all eternal emissionaries of Krishna, and he enjoys having us around. And when we come to the material world, we are like fish out of water. We will never be happy. We will be there, and we will be flapping our wings like the fish does on the beach when it is out of water. We have to just get back. Once that fish is back into the water, it can swim and enjoy with everybody else. Likewise, we have to just get back to our own home, back to Godhead. There's absolutely no pleasure here. We have to work towards Krishna consciousness to be happy. The more you give Krishna, the more you will have Krishna. Very popular saying, right? Very nicely said. The more you give Krishna, the more you'll have Krishna. And the more you get Krishna, the more happier you are. And then this actually takes you into the upward spiral. It just goes like this, and you get closer to the Lord. The bodies are all going to die. We are all not going to be. Why not feeling satisfied? Death is also actually artificial. Because Jivera Swarupa, Krishnera Nityadas. We are all eternal servants of the Lord. And we are all eternally, our souls are all eternal. And that's why when death comes, we don't like death. The body doesn't like death. The soul doesn't like death because we are all eternal. And the satisfaction is very, very temporary. It is like the first salary that comes, or it is like the first car that you buy, or the first house that you take. We can't get any satisfaction after that. It is just that flickering satisfaction over once. The first salary comes and you're happy, but then you realize the next month you have to work really hard to get the second month's salary. Or if you have to go up the ladder, if you have to get a promotion, you have to really put in that extra time. And this nectar that we have got, unless we taste it properly, we will never be able to give it to others. We will never be able to convince others to taste it also. So foremost, the most important point is to avoid Nama Aparadh and to avoid Vaishnava Aparadh. And if we avoid these two things, Nama Aparadh as well as Vaishnava Aparadh, we will start relishing the holy name. We will get that nectar into the holy name of the Lord. And once you start getting the nectar, you will relish it. And only when you relish it, you know what it is. It is like in the lake, you're walking on the side of the lake and it's a hot day. You don't enjoy unless until you enter into the lake. You're still feeling hot despite the cold lake being right next to you, or a nice serene lake right next to you. So one needs to actually dive into it. One needs to jump into that lake to enjoy or to experience that coldness of water and to get relief from the heat that we have. So devotees have to be that ocean. We have to actually get into the ocean to enjoy and taste the bliss. So there is Jnana and Vijnana. Jnana is basically theory and Vijnana is realized knowledge. We should actually look at the realized knowledge. Unless we immerse ourselves into that realized knowledge, we will never be able to give it to others. We have only one business, to take shelter of Guru and Krishna. And then, once you take the shelter of Guru and Krishna, you will relish this. And then you can actually go on, you can always have your prayers saying that, oh my Lord, please bless me so that I could surrender 100% and nothing short of 100%. So these are all opportunities which are given, and with every opportunity, every obstacle that comes in, there's a great opportunity. So I was hearing one of our very senior devotee in the movement speaking about COVID. He said, because of COVID, I was not allowed to go out of the house. I was not allowed to cross into the street. And my family was very particular that I stay at home and not go out and get infected and all of that. He said, Krishna gave me an opportunity. I started, preaching online. Earlier, I would probably preach 5-6 people. But now I've got hundreds of people whom I actually preach on internet. And the number of classes have gone up. Likewise, His Holiness Shri Japtak and Guru Maharaj would travel. And then, when he is traveling, sometimes he would not have the day classes or the evening classes, depending on the time zones. But now, he's found this way out. Every day he gives classes. So it is not an obstacle. Guru Maharaj doesn't feel that it's an obstacle that he's most of the time staying in Sridham Mayapur. But now he's taken it as an opportunity. He reaches out to people with his everyday classes in the evenings. He's doing so much more. So every obstacle for a devotee, in turn, is a blessing in disguise. It's a great opportunity for us to do. So material body is basically just a cage. And we as devotees should be interested in getting out of this cage. For the materialist, for the non-devotees, it is like getting from one cage to another cage. Today they are in the human cage, tomorrow they'll be in the cat cage, day after tomorrow they'll be in the dog cage, and after that they will be in the fly cage. But for devotees, it is very important that our only business is to get out of this cage. The cage is the body. We don't want another body. If you've done, for materialists, if they've done good karmas, they get a better cage. Otherwise, they get a lower cage. But for devotees, there is nothing called better or lower. For devotees, it is just to get out of the cage. We have to only identify ourselves. And once we identify ourselves with the body, then we will only start cleansing the cage. We do not want to be in the cage. It's never, I would like to continue in the cage. So the learning from today's class would be more to do with the Sankhya philosophy, which Kapila Muni gave, Kapila Dev gave. And this is to, as I said, it's a number game, 16. We should get out of this prison house, which is of 16 holes, and try and go back home, back to Godhead. That's the most important part of it. And one should start thinking about his well-being after the age of 50, that he should slowly start practicing to preach Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The world is a whole family. It is not only for living for himself or his very limited close family. He has to go beyond. And that is where, in this age, sannyas ashram is not easy to manage. But Srila Prabhupada said, all my grahastha devotees are sannyasis. They are preaching the holy name of the Lord. So let's all become sannyasis by preaching the holy name without actually leaving our house, our families, or going to the forest. So I will end the discussion here. If there are any questions or if there are any comments, I'm happy to take them. Or if there are any corrections, I'm happy to accept them as well. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. So if there are no questions, then I will end the class here. Thank you very much for joining this morning. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.